The Colosseum stands as one of the most iconic emblems of Rome, representing architectural genius and Roman imperial power. The Colosseum was initially titled the Flavian Amphitheater because it was constructed under the rule of the Flavian dynasty. Vespasian, the first of the Flavian emperors, gained power after a period of turmoil and civil war following the death of Emperor Nero. Desiring to restore Rome to its former glory, one of the main focuses of Vespasian's reign was a massive building project, which included the construction of the Colosseum. To emphasize that the large amphitheater was a gift to the Roman people, Vespasian strategically built the Colosseum on the former grounds of Nero's Golden Palace. The choice of location signified to the Roman people an end to the terror that had characterized Nero's reign, as well as the promise that Rome would once again stand as a strong imperial power. Construction of the Colosseum began in 72 AD and was later completed by Vespasian's son and successor Titus. Upon completion, the Flavian Amphitheater was hailed as an architectural marvel. In fact, in 80 AD, to celebrate the completion of the Colosseum, Emperor Titus hosted a 100-day gladiator event. Unlike most of the Roman structures that were built into the surrounding hills, the Colosseum was freestanding. The oval arena stood 48 meters high with a total of 4 stories. The exterior walls are comprised of 3 levels of arches supported by decorative columns. The first level, as you'll notice, is framed by Doric columns, which is the simplest and most plain type. The second level is framed by Ionic columns, which are characterized by the iconic scrolls that you'll see on a lot of other architectural buildings throughout Rome. And finally, the third level sports Corinthian columns, which are the most ornate. The third level also housed supports for the velarium, which was the large awning that spanned across the arena. It functioned to protect spectators from both the sun and rain. At capacity, the large amphitheater housed 50,000 spectators. To accommodate the large number of spectators, there were 80 arched entry and exit points. 76 of the entrances were utilized for the general public. 2 entrances were strictly for gladiators, and the remaining 2 were exclusive to the emperor. Although much of the interior of the Colosseum is gone today, the internal divisions are still evident. During ancient times, the inside was separated into 3 parts, including the cavea, the arena, and the hypogeum. The cavea was the hierarchical spectator seating arrangement. The first tier of seating closest to the arena was reserved for senators and other wealthy, highly esteemed citizens. The second tier was delegated to the middle-class citizens. The plebes were seated in the third tier, which left women, slaves, and foreigners at the highest level. The emperor had his own specially reserved seating called the podium, located in front of the first tier. The sand-covered wooden arena floor served as the center stage for the brutal gladiatorial action. Beneath the arena was an elaborate network of passageways known as the hypogeum. The brilliant design of the hypogeum played a critical role in creating a visually captivating show for the audience. It was a complex underground mechanism system that would lift wild animals into the arena or help flood the arena for an intense mock naval battle. Architect Heinz Jürgen Bies, who devoted 14 years examining the hypogeum, stated that the ingenuity of the system served the sole purpose to delight spectators and ensure the success of shows that both celebrated and embodied the grandeur of Rome. Even though the completion of the Colosseum was after Vespasian's death, his dream of rebuilding the glory of Rome was realized. As the Roman Empire continued to gain power throughout the ancient world, the Colosseum and the gladiator games remained a popular pastime. The Roman people were enthralled with the brutality and the suspense that the games offered. Gladiators were hailed as heroes. Emperors would host the games not only as a flamboyant display of wealth, but also to celebrate military victories. The arena would be the site of wild animal hunts, bloodthirsty gladiator matches, mock naval battles, and even theatrical dramas under Emperor Domitian. Later in history, it would also be the site of many political executions. However, as Christianity spread throughout the Roman Empire and eventually was declared the official religion of Rome, the gladiator games came to be viewed as immoral and cruel. The last gladiator games in the Colosseum were in 404 AD. Use of the Colosseum for smaller animal fights, wrestling matches, and execution of criminals continued until 422 AD, when an earthquake inflicted structural damage. Eventually, the Colosseum was abandoned altogether during the 6th century with the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. During the Dark Ages, a series of earthquakes caused further damage to the Colosseum. Neglected and crumbling, the Colosseum became a source of building material. In fact, Pope Alexander VI contracted the Colosseum as a quarry. Throughout the Dark Ages and the early Renaissance, architects and artists took great interest in the Colosseum. Stones, columns, and many of the decorative statues were stolen. At the beginning of the 18th century, however, Pope Benedict XIV intervened and forbid the removal of any structures from the Colosseum. He also dedicated the Colosseum as a sacred site to the Christian martyrs who are to have believed to have been persecuted there. However, even though the pilfering of stones and statues had stopped, the Colosseum in the later years was visited by many botanists because there was a great variety of plant life that had rooted in the ruins. By the 19th century, the once grand arena was completely gone, and the hypogeum was submerged beneath 40 feet of earth. It was not until the earliest 20th century that archaeologists began to attempt excavation. In the 1930s, the hypogeum was fully excavated, and in the 1990s, the restoration effort to preserve the rest of the Colosseum began. Preservation of the Colosseum still remains an ongoing effort as new threats of pollution and vibrations of the underground metro take their toll. Tourists, however, are not deterred by the sight of construction. Millions of visitors travel each year to see the Colosseum, making it one of Rome's most popular and beloved tourist attractions. Historian Tom Mueller notes that in ancient times, to spectators, the stadium was a microcosm of the empire and its games a reenactment of their foundation myths. In modern day, the Colosseum can still be seen as a representation of the imperial might and tremendous wealth of the great Roman Empire.